Just got out of the sauna. It's 9:15 right now. I'll give you all a brief update about the fast, but we finished the fast. 3 days, 3 entire days, straight liquids, straight bone broth, teas, all of that. And yesterday I broke the fast, opting to eat more simple. As of right now, just chicken breasts. I tried cauliflower rice. It was pretty good. And just like blueberries, just some light stuff, nothing crazy. Trying to ease my way back into this whole dieting thing and whatnot. Obviously coming off a fast. But what I wanted to touch on was recently I've just been struggling with this lack of motivation. It feels like this lack of motivation and energy to post, to really commit to this. Not necessarily commit, but just really put forth the effort that I know is needed in order to grow this channel towards the point that I want it to be. So that way I can be able to have that impact and create a living through this. And as a result, this morning, within my morning routine, I've mentioned before that I like to read my daily devotional. And what I'll do is, after reading it, I'll just go in prayer. And I always start my prayers off every single morning with repentance. So essentially, it's just I speak on my sins. I cleanse myself of any sort of baggage that I might be carrying in terms of any sinful or wrongful behavior that I might have engaged in. And I repented specifically this morning on fixating more on the outcomes rather than the effort. And that it's exactly what is causing me to lack motivation and energy when it comes to this whole content thing. And it's what I wanted to speak on, in that so many people fixate on the outcome. They fixate on the goal. They fixate on the end point, the destination. The reason people do this is because that's what fuels them. The end result fuels them. If you think about it from the perspective of somebody who's starting to go to the gym, they might go into the gym with the intention, with that thought form of, I could look like this. They imagine the physique they could have. They imagine the body they could achieve. And while it's good to keep your goals in mind, of course, to remind yourself and make sure you're staying on point, staying on the path, the thing is that when you focus on the end point, when that is what drives you and that is what fuels you on a daily basis, you only really put forth the effort when you feel motivated. In that you might not feel motivated right now to put in the work. In the gym analogy, you might not feel motivated to go hit the gym, but as soon as you think about that physique, as soon as you think about the outcome you want within the gym, then all of a sudden you want to go. And people think that's a good thing, but it really isn't, because it makes you incapable of enjoying the process. It makes the process so much more unbearable when you fixate solely on the outcomes. And it's exactly why when it comes to putting forth effort, when it comes to fixating on effort, you need to become enthralled within the process. You need to become enthralled within the process. And what I mean by that is you need to enjoy the work, enjoy the effort so much that when it comes to the outcome, you don't even think about it. You don't think twice about the outcome. Of course, it's in your mind, right? When you set goals, of course, you're thinking about the goal, you're thinking about the outcome. But when you become so enthralled within the process of just putting in the effort, putting in the work that is needed, you don't fixate on the outcome. You just know what's going to happen. And the way I like to frame this is, imagine a Renaissance painter or a sculptor, right? Those guys from all the way back then who were making those crazy ass sculptures and paintings, right? Do you think they were sitting there fixating solely on the outcome. Of course it was in their head, right? When in the case of a sculptor, when you have this big rock in front of you and it's just a rock, of course you need to have the outcome in mind of what you're trying to achieve with it. In the same way with a blank canvas if you're a painter. But the thing is, with those people created masterpieces. Why? Because they sat there and they forced them, they had no choice but to become enthralled within the process of sitting there. For the sculptor, sitting there hammering away at the rock. For the painter, sitting there painting the picture. Both of those cases, it's good to have the outcome in mind, but it is not what gets the work done, right? All those sculptures, all those insane paintings, those all came from the person just sitting there and just putting in the effort, just becoming enthralled within the process, making love with the present moment in terms of the effort. And that's exactly where effort comes from. It comes from conscious intention within the present moment. When you are fixating on the outcomes, you're not in the present. You're lacking presence. You're instead trying to jump ahead into the future. And of course, putting yourself into the future is important. I preach that your best self is your compass. When you are able to think from the perspective of your best self, then you are able to extract what is essentially in the future and apply it to now. But when it comes to making progress within your goals, you need to have as much presence as possible, because the more presence you have, the more effort you are able to apply, the more effort you're able to put in. And so another way I like to frame this is that the directions are more important than the destination. It's essentially the same thing, but I feel like this might be a little bit easier to understand. If you know the right direction that you need to go in order to achieve a particular outcome, you don't necessarily need to know the destination, right? You don't really need to think about the destination, because if, let's say I'm in a car and I'm on my phone and I have the directions to get to X place, right? If I just put the directions in, I can just put my phone down and just know that, okay, I'm gonna just start driving and eventually I'm gonna reach my destination. But when you focus on the destination instead, when you neglect the directions, you don't know where to go. If you start driving, you know the destination, but you don't know what turns to make. You don't know which way to go. And the thing is, with fixating on the destination, you don't know whether or not the effort is truly progressing you, because in fact it could actually be regressing you. It could be ruining your progress. It could be making you take steps backward rather than forward. But when you focus on the effort, it is inevitable that you will grow in the right direction. I call this directional growth, where when you focus on the directions, it becomes inevitable that you will grow, because once you set the right course and have that path in mind in terms of the direction that you need to go, the journey over the destination, it just becomes impossible to fail, because every step you take is pushing you in the right direction. Every single step. It's obviously why I needed to remind myself this when I was sitting in the sauna. I was sitting in the sauna and I thought to myself, why do I lack motivation? Why is it that I'm lacking energy when it comes to this? When I know this is exactly what I want to do with my life. When I know this is the future I have carved out for myself. And it's not to say I'm focusing on the destination, right? Because I could think about the end result all I want within this channel, within my health goals, within my spiritual and mental development. I could think about all of those things, but it doesn't matter if I'm not actively putting in the effort. It doesn't matter if I'm not creating the conscious intention within the present moment to get what I need to get done. And so I hope you guys can, really just entertain that thought. Just sit with those thoughts when it comes to effort over the outcomes, man, because all we have is the present moment. All we have is the present moment. And when you sit there just daydreaming, thinking about the outcomes, you don't get things done. It's exactly why so many people within the gym, they can sit there and think about the physique all they want. They can think about having that body, being in shape. But it doesn't matter if you're not actively enthralled within the process. If you're not going into the gym every single day, enjoying that shit, it doesn't matter. You can walk in there and just be able to walk out knowing that you made progress. You don't even think. You're not even thinking about the end goal. You just walk out knowing you just made progress, and you at the same time feel fulfilled, and you extracted so much joy from just putting in the effort of hitting that workout, getting in the sauna, whatever it may be. But that's all from me, boys. I'm gonna go hit up Whole Foods, cop some stuff for this elimination diet, but I'll see y'all. Remember, effort over outcomes, directions over the destination. View yourself as a Renaissance painter, sculptor, because in chiseling away, carving away at the rock of your potential, or at that blank canvas, you are able to create the masterpiece that is your best self, that is your 2.0. And that is what I preach, right? It is the only path. It is the only thing worth pursuing in this life, becoming your 2.0. But hey, hope y'all got some good value from that. I'll see y'all.